Let's chat today about honoring cycles and just reading the transmission of like how much, like what part of me wants to like go kind of on a tangent that's spoken about here. So what we're going to chat about is like the importance of honoring where you are, like especially in the feminine in your cycle, but the masculine has the same cycle. It just runs daily, while the feminine runs like on a 4-week cycle ish. Everybody's a little different, right? And over time, like as you become more complete in remembering who the fuck you are, like that actually levels out too, because the tone can take over at any stage. But so right now I'm on like day 2 of my cycle, and like I have stopped hustling. I have stopped hustling in general because this is about just being me, right? And in no part of my life did I decide to sign up to hustle. Like that was not the plan. That is not what excites me. That is not my joy. Are there times where I'm in more full on like mode of creation? Absolutely. But it has to come from joy. It has to be something that I want to do, that I like to do, like authentic to me, like feels like me. And then I can get in those modes where it's just creation, right? And that can just take over. But then we have to watch like the parts that want to keep pushing, right? I fell into that when I was creating the landing page for Here We Grow, which is an expression room, which is a lot of fun. It's a place that I can talk more about it a little bit later because I want to get into this here. But like when I was creating the landing page for it, there was like that kind of like egoic part that was like, let's just get it finished. And every time that I would like push, like anything I was working like with, like if I was formatting the landing page in like Claude, it would freeze or start pushing back something to me that I was like, that's not what I asked for. Like that's not the color, or like those words, like that those words aren't me, like, which is my responsibility to like use the mirror, right? And also like it has to come from me, so it has to be my wording, so I can use that as like, ooh, that resonates, like this is cool, like this is what I put in, what I wanted, and that's really cool. But when it starts pushing back things that either aren't what you were looking for, because you can see it, right? And you can see the colors and you can see the format and you have like the words you want to say, you're just like looking for a little guidance and like the whole page. Like I want the page. I'm not going to create the page from scratch. So like I would like find myself all of a sudden being like, that's not what I asked for. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, like pause. You are like, I guess arguing with AI, which is still you, it's your mirror. But that's like when the cue would come in that I was pushing. So we have to notice that because it can switch so fast where you're in your joy, you're in your creation stage, you're doing, and it's exciting, and then that door slides shut for just a little while because it's not, there's something else coming through that's more joyful. And like that's the switch, we have to be aware of, because it's so quick to let the unconscious part of you be like, I can come back in here and we can push and we can get this done. And that's not how it's done. Like everything's done in the playful time and the joy. And so when I honor cycles, back to what we started with, I have created my life around my cycle now, right? And it fluctuates in time, and I find like as tone comes in more and more, like authentic tone. So when I say it like that, it's like my full signature frequency of like who I truly am, that it shifts, right? But like we all know, like if you really read your body, you know when your cycle's about to start, you have cues, and maybe you don't. And if you don't, it's most likely that you've been pushing through it. Okay, so if you just kind of feel into like all the times like you pushed through your initial period week. How many times, like what have you done? Like where have you gone that you would have, if you had the choice to like do what your body was asking for? So that doesn't mean doing nothing. I mean, sometimes it does. Sometimes it means not right now. But if you had the choice in that time, you would actually find that what happens during that week is that you have your downloads in your journaling, and like this is where you're just letting it go. So as the uterine lining sheds and the blood releases, like you're letting go of everything from the last cycle that was ready to go, and that includes like lifetimes and generations that are ready to go. So when you start to do that and you start to honor that, you start to read your body like a clock. You start to be able to see that, okay, like this is happening right here. Like, and you can do this in like seasons. Like I was introduced to it as seasons. And that really was like the analogy that went really well for me, because the whole phases and that, like that, the biological terminology is just, it always seemed contracting. Like I think that's not fun. So like right now would be winter, but like autumn would be the week before, and that's where a lot of like discord comes in. Everything that's still looping, that wants to be released, that's ready to be released, that's what's kind of showing up in what those terms when people call it PMS. So premenstrual syndrome is really the body being like, this is what's in the way. This has to release. And the more and more that I listen to that I take the time, because like that's a time to slow down as well. So like even like everything revolves around how I'm feeling in these weeks. And I don't track it anymore like in an app or on the calendar. I do it by feel and kind of just pay attention and kind of broadly like this is this week, and then see what happens. And that has been so beneficial because it's allowing me to read my body and become more intuitive with my body. But what I noticed in that the prior week, like almost like to a T, I had always been around the same individual, like just right before, like at the start of the autumn and like, or right before. And there was always like this like energy that was coming through. And I can't quite describe it right now, so I'm going to leave it. And this might be for, it feels like if it does come through, it's going to come through kind of behind the Patreon. And I have to realize like that is what is dissolving. That's what I had to let go. So everything gets to teach us and be beneficial. And it's what seems like negative is actually the part that's pretty awesome. Right? So now when it happens, because it's still happening a little bit, right? I really laugh through it. I get to like, okay, here it is again. Like, what is this teaching me? And that's the beauty of it, of honoring our cycles, because the things that come through during my cycle week 1, the things that come through are just remarkable. And we have been conditioned to push through that week, to still go to work, to push the body, to do the workouts. And you can still do some of those things. But if your body's asking you not to, you're betraying it by doing it. and you're leaving your alignment, and nothing's going to come through because you're too tired. You didn't rest. You're too tired to actually have the awareness to listen to it to come through. And as I change, like, I can actually do more during that week and still have things come in. But there's moments when my body just says no. Like, it'll just be like, okay, like all of a sudden, like it'll go more internal. My energy will go more internal. It'll feel like it's time to rest. I might take a nap. I might just all of a sudden like go into the silence, like just like meditation, like it just like sitting there and it just like, okay, like this is happening right now. And then like the downloads come in, the next steps come in, and I write them down or I just let them be. And if they're meant to be, they come back, right? Because that's another thing we don't push or manage. Like when source flows through, sometimes you get idea after idea after idea. And if we insist on like remembering them all, like I couldn't tell you how many things that I want to share on this podcast have come through in either this one, just being me, or in the Patreon, like getting paid to just be me, that I want to share when I'm like, I don't take my phone when I go on walks with the dog. Like I want to take it because I want to get pictures of him in this really beautiful part. But that was like last week and I still haven't done it because I really enjoyed not carrying my phone, just not having anything on me, just the poop bags if I need them, right? And just going. So sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to talk about this. And I don't have any place to speak about it. So I can speak about it into the woods. I can tell myself. I can just kind of earmark it for later. But trying to remember it, like that's no good in the moment. Like if it's meant to be, it'll circle back around for you. But the cool thing is like it's infinite. That energy, those shares, it's infinite. So even if like it didn't come through, when I speak about it, when I start speaking on here, it comes through in the next podcast, in the next transmission. So it's never lost. It'll come through at some point somewhere. And maybe it wasn't for here. Maybe it was a conversation that I'll have with somebody else as well. So I've seen that come through as well. So it always gets shared when you're staying in your alignment, when you're true to yourself. So if you can just feel like into the amount of times you have betrayed that part of you, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Like there's no judgment here. Like we've all done this. This is collective. But I have decided, like for me and for the collective, that I was going to vibrationally exit, which is something I talk about in certain structures. So one of the structures that I've exited was like actually like leaving that like patriarchal push. Instead of, yes, I still want to be free. I want my freedom. I want to have my own income source and to be able to do what I want without relying on somebody else. So I still want to have like the business, which I guess, I don't know if I'm even going to call it that anymore, right? But because it is fun and it is playful, and that's, I guess we call it playness now. Like, well, a word will come through, right? And we'll find something fun. But the hustle is over. And that's not just here in what I'm doing as business. This is everywhere. If things come through, and sometimes they're like labor. And in the past, I would have been like, oh yeah, I'll be there and I'll help you. But if my body's like, no, or something else is like more joyful for me in the moment, because when my body is healthy and I have overflow and I can help, I will. But if I have a project that I'm working on that's like in the joy and it's flowing, and you know, if I go and do something for somebody else in that time, I don't do what I wanted to do. It doesn't get done because 3 hours later, I don't want to do it anymore. The inspiration is gone. So I have to follow it. I have to say no, because one, it takes me out of my alignment. Maybe it puts me in people pleasing. Then like, I really have to do that because like, that's my family. That's my family that's asking me to do that. And in the past, I would have done it and I would have burnt it out and I would have got nothing done for myself, right? And there's times like I've challenged it where I've been like, I don't want to do that at all. And I've done it and I've seen what happens, because the moment you leave your alignment, it triggers what's going to push you back into it. And that is going to be a contraction of some sort, right? Whether it's just your mind going, or your body starts to hurt, or somebody comes and says something to you that you're like, what the fuck? Like, you're like, but I'm helping. And that is what's so key about honoring your cycles. But this is like cycles within cycles. So we're doing this on the macro level. We're doing it in life by honoring like where we are. And this falls into seasonal as well, because in summer we naturally are doing more. We naturally have more energy, and your summer month is going to be like your ovulating week, right? Summer week rather. So we have more energy then. So we can do more, but that doesn't mean that we're doing more externally for others if it's not in alignment with us, right? So the whole honoring our cycles has become a part of my life, that for a while, like I would play with the winter week and I'm like, do I do nothing right now? Like, do I just meet like with the clients I have on schedule and I don't do anything else? And for a while, like my body actually needed to just chill and then after a while, like there was stretching and more activities and more things. And now I can find myself doing a lot more during that week, but still having to honor the pieces that sometimes say, because it's all about your alignment and it's about how you feel. And when like my body will push me into theta rest. And when that theta comes on, one, it's glorious. It's like your body just goes theta, and either you go right into like meditation or right into a nap. And you don't have to worry about this happening like when you're driving and stuff, because it won't. Like this happens when I'm home. And it's happening, but like, have you ever felt like your body was just ready for like that glorious, like either theta silence or a theta, like where you push into a nap and it's just like, oh, and you didn't listen to it? That is when you don't receive, because, and this was said to me by someone, that when you take those rests, when you get the sleep, when you're doing nothing, when you're in the silence, you're actually doing more. And it makes so much sense, like to most of me. There's like parts of me that's still like, what if you push, right? So it's a process of honoring yourself, of being true to who you are. And like, I'll say I just caught myself looking at the time to be like, is this enough time for a podcast? Like feeling like, so this is like live dissolving of this, of like letting me make this whatever time feels like the transmission should be. Like, should it be, can I stop right now? I mean, I feel like I am not going to stop right now. Like there's more coming through, but I get to know that when it's over, and I don't have to push. And as I say that, like I can feel that up in like my throat and the lymph nodes there. So like this gets to dissolve as I speak it to you, which is the glory of just being me, of just being you. Wow, that was incredible. And you can see how the silence just comes in and we allow it, and the joy sits there. But yeah, this is coming to an end. I can feel it now. So thank you I looked at the clock again. Thank you for listening, and just start to ask yourself, like, where am I pushing through parts of me that need rest, and where can I give more energy, not effort, right? We want this to flow. We're not putting effort in. We're putting our energy that's ready in, right? Not pushing, but into myself for the good of all. Like, where am I still like giving it away when I have it, instead of like putting into like what your creations? Because all is perfect. You can still help other people, but not when you are betraying your own energy. So on that note, we're going to wrap, and we'll see you next time.